A lot of
Okay.
people fear, especially women, that more food is going to equal fat, more fat,
Yeah, and feeling
less
because you're bloated,
desirable.
right? You got bloated, you're a little bit watery. That happens to me sometimes if I go through a couple days when I don't eat very much food, I start eating more food again. My midsection looks bloated as heck for a couple days. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel like you're physically seeing in the mirror the exact opposite of what you want in every sense in the mirror, in the scale, in how your body feels and how your stomach feels. But now's where we push, right? Welcome to episode 15 of the Mac and Riley podcast. We are now on season two.
We are back. We
We are
took a little
back.
break, but we're ready to go now.
We had a little bit of a break. Things are picking up in a very good way with Elite Functional Health and all the folks that we're helping there. We're building fast. For any of you that don't know, Elite Functional Health, we are building basically a mini mentorship within our coaching protocols because typically you coach clients one on one, right? You hire a coach, and for anybody who doesn't know, you hire a coach, you work one on one with them, you talk with them on whatever regular basis you agree upon, and you do a check in like once a week or every other week. So you interact with only your coach. And a lot of times you have a lot of questions, right? You have a lot of questions about like why you're doing what you're doing, whatever it is. Most people resort to, well, I'm just going to do what I'm told because I know I have faith that this is going to work. And if it works, you're like, cool, that worked. But if you're anything like myself and probably Mac, you're like, well, why? What was it that did that? I want to know for the rest of my life. Like, if this ever comes up again, whatever, because coaching is, somewhat temporary, and your body and your relationship and your knowledge about your body it's forever, right? And so we're building a mini mentorship where we have modules we built out. So far, we've done, man, 10 modules on mitochondria, probably 10 on thyroid, 10 on absorption
Cortisol.
detox, 10 on cortisol, ton of really, really cool modules in our coaching program. And we have group chats with everyone every day. We have office hours that we meet twice a week, and it's becoming a really cool thing. So for those of you listening, so happy to have you in the group. This has been really once in a lifetime, something very cool that we're building. And if you're not, keep an eye out because we're going to keep building more and more, and maybe we'll see you in the group sometime. But
Yeah, if you want one-to-one help with me or Riley, you know where to find us.
you know where to find us. And also some cool things we've got in the background for the Mac and Riley podcast now. Some cool, quote unquote, we'll say group chat esque things that
Hmm.
we'll be talking about here very soon. But yeah, a lot of really cool things. Took a few weeks there to really start building, and now we're catching a stride again and back for episode 15.
Yes, very
And
excited.
this
Today, we're going
go
to talk
ahead,
about reverse dieting.
reverse dieting. Now we figured this next season we're going to start diving into a lot of the stuff that we're seeing as coaches, right? Things that we commonly see, things we commonly troubleshoot, things that aren't commonly talked about. And reverse dieting, it seems like it seems somewhat simple, but the more we talk with folks about it, there's a lot more nuance. And sometimes people don't quite know what reverse dieting actually is. And it's something that's really common with, man, I would say probably 30% of my clients are reverse dieting right now. What
Yeah.
about you? What would you say?
I feel like almost everybody who comes to me starts with a reverse diet,
Yep.
depending on their lifestyle and everything going on. Because I work with mostly women. Like I have some men that I work with, but especially women because you're taught to just eat less and less and less and less. But let's say they're in this kind of dieting mindset and never come out of that diet and they just keep and keep and keep dieting. They keep having to diet on lower and lower and lower calories till you have nowhere really else to go. And then you have to build your metabolic rate back up. So let's say you still have fat you want to lose so that you can end up losing that body fat.
So what do you think? Let's bring it all the way back. What do you think causes that from the beginning? Someone either intentionally or potentially unintentionally getting to a point where reverse dieting is really the only approach. What do you think causes that in general population?
I think if you're intentionally, like when people say like diet culture, I think like people trying to already they don't have a great diet. They're maybe just like the standard American diet, maybe eating something like really small for breakfast, like salad at lunch, and then they go out to dinner with their coworkers or the family or what have you. Their diet's already not in a sustainable and great place. And then they get into the spot of like, oh, I want to lose body fat. So they drive their calories down further. And then they're further down regulating that when their metabolic rate already wasn't firing in the best spot. And then maybe like unintentionally, say if somebody, they're not even thinking about fat loss or anything like that, but say work is crazy. They're focusing on feeding their kids and their family, and they're not really focused on feeding themselves. And over time, their intake gets less and less and less. I think both of those things, kind of if you're being intentional, like actively trying to lose body fat, or if it's just kind of how life is going, you're not really eating, not really thinking about yourself, then we can also get into that spot of kind of metabolic downregulation.
Which is crazy to think about because those two scenarios, that's got to be 60, 70% of the population at least, including
Yeah.
those who are unintentionally and those who are, fit but having trouble
Mhm.
getting through that barrier of body fat and just end up in that situation. That's a big group of people.
I think it's genuinely most people, because what I always have people do is do without changing anything. Don't change how you're eating, don't change what you're doing for food, portions, anything. Track exactly how you have been eating so I can get the best representation of how things are looking. And a lot of times, there's a couple common themes I see. One is their intake is just low, low, low. Maybe one day on the weekend is at like 2,500 calories because they went out with friends or what have you. But then, other than that, meal timing is super inconsistent. They're eating just kind of like small snacks here and there, never really wholesome meals. That's
Yeah,
the most
weird.
common trend that I see. Do you feel like you see a similar trend with that?
100%. Yeah, it's like where my mind goes, and kind of one of the common conversations is like, look, eating is inconvenient. Eating is inconvenient. It's expensive. It takes time. You got to cook it. You got to eat it. When you do eat it, usually it's a little bit. It's on the go, right? Typically, when you're just starving, and if you're chasing hunger signals, that becomes pretty dangerous because as your metabolic rate drops, as your thyroid drops, as your
You're not going to
cortisol and
be
circadian,
hungry.
you're not going to be hungry. And so you end up eating very little. And it's like, well, yeah, eating's inconvenient. But what's more inconvenient is not feeling like you have the energy to do anything. And that's where it starts.
Yeah,
You look
absolutely.
at
And then
people,
yeah. Sometimes when you tell people like, hey, we need to pursue a reverse diet, like we need to work on getting metabolic rate into a better spot, thyroid into a good spot, even if their main goal is fat loss, it's kind of like this hump you have to go over before you even attempt to go back into a deficit. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't feel hungry. I don't know how I'm going to eat more. And you slowly start bumping food up. And they're like, wait, I think I am hungry. They start getting like meal rhythms. They start eating at a specific schedule. They start having the meals that they like. They start notice that that hunger is coming up. And I'm like, yes, that's a good thing. Don't let that scare you away.
yeah, you're like, I'm hungry all the time. Now I got to eat more. Like, but that's a good thing. Like, that's
Right.
exactly what you want to see. Because, man, folks like that, and I've been in that position where you're like, how do you guys have so much energy? How are you guys doing so many things? How are you accomplishing so, how do you just get through a workout and cardio and,
Hmm.
coaching and ECA, all this stuff? And it's like, well, that's what metabolic rate is. It's your
Hmm.
body being able to absorb nutrients, convert that to energy, and translate that energy into being able to do more. So if you're ever like just thinking, how do I get that energy back? How do I get the energy that I felt when I was a teenager? How do I get that energy when I see like an influencer or someone online that they're just crushing it? And you think
Hmm.
about, man, they have so much energy. How do they do that? They're just so driven. It's because they're probably taking very, very good care of their body. Their body is producing a lot of energy. And now you're just like, what do I do next? What can I do next? I want to do this next, as opposed to thinking, oh man, I got to do something else. I'm going to procrastinate this. And I think that's
And you
the
have that
flip.
drive back.
Yeah.
That's the best way that I can explain it as a drive. Which, speaking of, you're talking about like things running slower, all of that stuff. Thyroid is going to control metabolic rate in general. I saw a Threads post that said something T3 isn't a fat loss hormone. And I want to get your thoughts on that because I replied and I was like, I don't agree with this.
Yeah. T3 is one of, if not the most important fat loss hormone.
I would
And
agree.
and
But
not thinking like exogenous, like you have to take T3.
right, exactly.
And maybe that's like what they thought it came from. But it's like, if you have good endogenous T3, if you're converting T3, and I think we've talked about this online, but you have your pituitary sends TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, to your thyroid. Your thyroid produces T4 and some T3. T4 goes to your peripheral tissues, gut, liver, skeletal muscle, brain, areas in the body, and that converts it to T3. And that T3 then has to be utilized at the cell site. And so, two places that we get hung up, and why we commonly think it's silly if you ever hear online, like, oh, T4 is not a good solution, right? And people might think, well, that's that you're supplementing thyroid hormone, right? Why is that not a good thing? Well, it still has to be converted. And if your environment isn't a place to convert it, and or an environment to utilize the T3 if it's converted, right? You have two failure points there, then you're going to struggle, because tissues follow, or symptoms follow, tissue level hypothyroidism. That means they need T3, and they need to be able to utilize T3. And that plays a big part in body temperatures, metabolism, conversion of hormones, right? You get cholesterol. We think cholesterol is bad. Cholesterol gets converted to your sex hormones. That's where they comes from. And T3 plays a big part in that. So if your hormones are not in a good spot, you don't have T3 for your energy, your metabolism, your body temperature, and for converting all these other hormones, then yeah, fat loss is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, especially if you're eating very little food.
And tying back to reverse dieting, you can think almost, not as a blanket statement, but you can think of reverse dieting as upregulating the thyroid as well. Because that's essentially what you're doing, is you're uprating metabolic rate, thereby upregulating thyroid, T3, all of that. And then going back to what you said about prescribing T4 only prescriptions for hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, whatever. It's just so hard for me to wrap my head around, because biologically we know T4 has to be converted into active form T3. And if somebody already has hypothyroidism, the chances are that they're also having some issues converting that T4 into T3.
Yep, you're inflamed, you have gut issues, you have liver issues. We all have liver issues. There's no, all of us are trying to keep up with detox anymore.
Yeah.
Most people have gut issues, right? The things you put in your body affect your gut microbiome. Everything affects your gut microbiome. And most things that are affecting your microbiome for most people are impacting that in a negative way. Well, that's also impacting T4 to T3. So yeah, I don't see anyone able to lose body fat without T3.
I don't either.
You really can't.
I tried to talk to her about it, but she didn't reply, so that's fine.
Yeah, as usual. But if anybody says like, "Oh,
I
you
genuinely wanted to hear what she said.
yeah," maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she
Yeah.
doesn't know. But yeah, and you hear people say like, "Increase your metabolism. Increase your metabolism." You hear that
What does
very
it
common.
mean?
We've heard that over so many years, right? Eat food to increase your metabolism. Such and such, whatever X to increase your metabolism. You're speaking about thyroid. You're speaking about thyroid. You're speaking about being able to absorb, being able to digest and absorb nutrients properly, being able to utilize those nutrients for things like hormone and thyroid conversion, which upregulate your metabolism. So at the root of it, that's really what we're talking about.
And I think a lot of people too get confused too, thinking like a specific diet as far as like caloric restriction is going to upregulate metabolism, because that's going to do the opposite. The longer you're in a deficit, the kind of more likely that thyroid downregulation is going to occur. And that's okay. That's a normal part of a diet, but it depends on your resiliency and then reverse dieting after to kind of restore that function and get things firing again.
Yeah, it's like a relative deficit. Right?
Right.
If your maintenance is 2,000 calories and you're eating 800, that's too far. Your body's going
Right.
to compensate. You have low energy because you're supposed to. You're supposed to have low energy at 800 calories, right? If you had high energy at 800 calories, then your body would not, instead of being able to utilize 600 of those calories for what you need before you die, if you kept high energy at 800 calories, then now you have like 200 calories for what your body needs, and you would die much, much quicker, right? You're supposed to have low energy at that low of calories. You're supposed to have low thyroid. You're supposed to digest things very slow. You're supposed to have a very slow digestive tract. You're supposed to have that. But if you are eating and feeding your body everything it needs, specifically micronutrients, right? B vitamins, fat soluble vitamins, zinc, iodine, selenium, magnesium, all the things that thyroid hormones and everything else needs in the right amounts, in enough amounts. And then you have a optimal hormone and thyroid environment, And then, so you have maximum energy. Let's just say now you have maximum energy,
which is not most people.
which is not most people. Oh, now you eat 1,800 calories or 1,700 calories at a 3,000 calorie amount of energy. That slight deficit is what's giving you, your body's now going to utilize and burn things like fat. You're going to have good metabolic flexibility. You can't have metabolic flexibility without the metabolic part, the metabolism part. There's no
Exactly.
flexibility without the prior. But if you do have those things and you drop your deficit a little bit, then yeah, you're going to burn fat. You're going to have energy. I mean, your energy is going to get lower, but you're going to be hungry. You're going to have as much energy as you can have for 1,800 calories. And that's where you're going to burn body fat. But then it's like, okay, I'm eating 800 calories a day. Most of it's like 150 for breakfast, 200 for lunch, and 600 for dinner.
Sounds
Well, what do
terrible.
you do? What do you do? So walk us through it. Let's walk through it.
Okay. So I'm going to give an example. I don't want to say her name just because I want to be confidential with that. So I have a client that is one little bit longer year post-op from bariatric surgery. She was instructed, I think when her macros when she came to me were something ridiculous like 35 protein, 35 carb, 35 fat or something like that. Just extremely, extremely, extremely low. Was still dealing with, obviously, since she had surgery, her stomach couldn't handle as much food anyways, but she was still dealing with that food noise of wanting to eat, wanting to consume. Like the surgery kind of did its job in a sense of like losing some weight, but it wasn't sustainable as far as how she was expected to live her life afterward. So I was like,
Was she craving? Would you say she was still like craving junk food, things like that, or was she just like, I don't want to eat anything?
I don't want to speak for her, but especially because I know she watches the podcast too. But I would say from when I chatted with her, it was more so like thinking about food. She had lost weight. She lost over 100 pounds, but she would also lost muscle. And she
Wow.
got to a point where they wanted her to lose more weight and get down to arbitrary number. But at that point, she felt like she was just kind of like wasting.
Wow.
Like she,
I also didn't know that was 100 pounds, by the way, knowing the
yeah,
client you're talking about. That's insane.
more than
Congrats.
that,
That's insane.
more than that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we need to get you back fueled slowly but surely. Not anything crazy like bumping you. Okay, this TDE calculator online says your maintenance is 2,000 calories. Let's bump you up to 2,000. Started her with a very small increase to food. She starts dropping. Hunger comes up. I give her a little bit more food. Hunger starts coming up. Scale is still dropping. Scale is still dropping. I think she's down like 20 more pounds with me, and she's met this goal that kind of the doctor set out for her, the dietitian set out for her with these kind of guidelines of like keep carbs very low, which she also has hypothyroidism too.
Hmm. Hyper or hypo?
Hypo.
Hypo.
So they told her to keep low carb keto style diet to keep the hypothyroidism at bay. But you and I know that doesn't make sense because in order to help thyroid, we need carbs. So I'm bumping up her carbs. She's feeling a lot better. Energy's going a lot better. She's dropping. Lifts are doing better. So we're just going to keep riding that wave and continue slowly bringing food up to see kind of where her stopping point is because we can't increase food forever. Like there's going to be some cap to where you're in a calorie surplus now. Just that's it. But my plan is to continue to slowly increase her. And then once we get to that point, if she still wants to work on losing body fat, we'll go into a small deficit and kind of chip away from there.
Isn't that crazy? So for anyone listening and you're questioning what was just said, you're questioning correctly. And this is crazy. So she started with very little food. She eats more food, she loses more weight. She eats more food, she loses more weight. She eats more food, she loses more weight. That continues, the rate of weight loss the rate probably decreases as food goes up, but you're
Hmm.
losing weight. And then you get to a point where if you want to keep losing weight, then you decrease food and you continue to lose weight. So if anybody's wrapping their head around that, that's correct.
I think the important part is too, because a lot of people see reverse dieting as like eat more, lose weight, which isn't, that's not the goal
Yeah.
of it. Like if you lose
Yep.
weight, cool,
Yep.
but you can't go into it expecting like, okay, I'm eating 1,600 calories now. I want to eat 2,000. I want to lose weight while doing that. Like it may happen because your metabolism is speeding up faster than that food increase, but if the scale doesn't drop, that's not a bad thing and you're not doing anything wrong. And the most important part is too, it needs to be controlled. So you can't just be going in every week and be like, ah, increase carb 50, ah, increase fat 10 gram. It needs to be controlled and look at how the person's responding.
Yep, that's a fantastic point to bring up because it is definitely more common in my cases where that reverse dieting process does include a few months of the scale weight not moving
Yeah. Yeah. And
and
that's
or
okay.
and or the scale weight increasing.
Hmm.
It's going to increase a little bit. And it's not
Especially too
necessarily body fat, but
yeah,
that has to happen.
when you think about increasing carbs and then you're storing more water, and then you have more food in your GI tract as well.
Yeah, so it gets kind of tricky because you're like, I'm eating little food. So say it is someone who intentionally is on low food because they want to lose body fat, is in a situation where they're eating little food, have no energy, and cannot lose body fat. And now you want to increase your food and in that process, potentially lose weight or not, but you need to increase food to give your body the energy, the nutrients that it needs. But now scale weight is increasing, your worst nightmare.
Hmm.
Your worst nightmare. What's kind of a conversation you like to have when that starts to happen?
Sucks, especially if the person's main goal is to lose body fat. But it's
That is
kind
the
of what
biggest hurdle in a reverse diet, I think.
it's kind of the way I like to explain it is, of course, I'm going to go as conservative as possible. My goal isn't to see the scale go up, but say they came to me eating 1,300 calories. We can't go any lower than that. Like, there's no room for us to go. And I morally wouldn't feel comfortable with being like, yeah, I can have you lose body fat. Let me drag you down to 900 calories. And then, even if we did that in a hypothetical world, are their results going to be sustainable? Because we're going to have to reverse out of that 900 calories at some point or drop lower.
And they might not even lose body fat if you do
E-
that.
Exactly. Their body might just hold on to more weight and stress. So I like to explain it like we still have your long term goals in mind. That is still the forefront. But we have to go through this phase first to get you able to metabolically respond when we do put you into a deficit. Because that 1,600 calories that you calculated online is no longer a deficit for you anymore because you've been eating there for 5 years.
Technically speaking, if your body weight has not changed at 1600 calories, you're at maintenance, but a very suboptimal maintenance.
Exactly.
You're maintaining a suboptimal environment at 1600 calories. That's why you feel like shit.
Exactly. So basically, reverse dieting is up regulating those maintenance calories.
Mhm. Like how high can we get those calories to be before you're in a surplus? That's
That's
where you're going to feel the most energy.
that's always the goal. And people always ask me, like, how long are we going to do this? Or like, what goal are we trying to get to? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Because I could say, like, yeah, I have a goal to get you to 2,200 calories, but it could be above that. We could not quite get there. So it's one of those things that kind of it depends upon how the person's responding and how things are going to determine, like, if we should stop here, if we can keep pushing it. Also, how is the person feeling? Are they more hungry? Are they like, man, I really can't stomach any more food. I'm feeling good here. Then those are two kind of things to weigh.
Yeah, and it's almost like because you said it, what's the goal? I think it's important to understand that the goal is to get in shape, to lose body fat. And this may take 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
It may take shorter.
Hmm.
It may take
It depends on the
longer.
starting point. If somebody's reversing from 1,000 calories, it's going to be a lot longer than somebody reversing from 1,700.
Yeah. And
So it
if
just kind of depends.
like how resilient and dedicated are you in the process? Because something I understand how this works. And whenever I go through it, I know when to push and when to ignore negative feedback signals. But
Hmm.
as someone who hasn't gone through that, it's very difficult to feel and understand that uncomfortable feeling that you have when you're eating more food than you want to eat at 1600 calories and you're like, this can only get worse, right? I'm only going to feel if I eat more food, how does it to me make any sense that I'm going to lose body fat, get more energy, and feel better if I feel like shit eating 1600 calories and it's more than I can possibly handle right now? My stomach hurts. It's
And
like,
I
it's
think a lot
okay.
of people fear, especially women, that more food is going to equal fat, more fat,
Yeah. And feeling,
less
because you're bloated,
desirable.
right? You got bloated, you're a little bit watery. I mean, that happens to me sometimes if like I go through a couple days when I don't eat very much food. I start eating more food again. My midsection looks bloated as heck for a couple days. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel like you're physically seeing in the mirror the exact opposite of what you want in every sense in the mirror, in the scale, in how your body feels and how your stomach feels. But now's where we push, right? Circadian rhythm, consistent sleep and wake times, consistent meal times. Where can we add food? Where can we push? And if you're like, you know what, I trust it. Food is good. Food is not bad because your biology follows your mind.
Hmm.
If you tell yourself food is bad as you're eating it, you're probably not going to digest it very well. You're going to have like an adrenaline response to food, a negative adrenaline
Silly
response
as
to
it
food.
sounds, it sounds silly, but it's true.
It's true. It's like that's where you push, and then you're like, okay, it's fine. I feel like shit, but it's okay. What is the actual goal? The actual goal is not how I feel today, and it's not how the scale weight moves tomorrow. It's how I want to feel in 6 months after this necessary but uncomfortable process. And then as soon as you buy in, yeah, as soon as, and then if you're like, okay, I can get through this, a switch happens. And you're like, man, I'm getting a little bit more hungry. Man, I'm getting a little bit more energy. And something happens with me, like with clients, where it's that most difficult period of time before that switch happens. When typically for me, it's like, this was the best check in you've had so far. This is exactly what I want you to do. And they're like, awesome. I feel good about this now. Then they're like, oh, now I'm hungry. Let's add food here. Let's add food here. Now now the scale weight's dropping. Now you're eating more food. The scale weight's dropping. Ah, it clicked. Now we're moving in
Yeah.
the right direction. Now we're getting there.
And something really funny that happens too is, let's say somebody came to me 1,500 calories. We start reversing, they're at 1,900. And they're like, wait, I can't imagine that I used to eat that little. It's always funny to see that.
And like with you, because you did almost strictly reverse dieting coaching before,
Yeah, because it's pretty much because it's what people needed.
pretty much. And every
Yeah.
single one of your testimonials, every single one of your transformations, lady comes in, big belly, didn't, like things are not looking like you want to. The
Hmm.
after is a thinner, leaner, happier person. And
Hmm.
it's always, I'm eating more now than I was before
I
and
know.
feel and look better than you did before. That's the correlation. You're like, man, how does that make any sense? Like, depending on how your relationship with food, how you correlate fat with eating, that's kind of where it comes from.
Right. And there absolutely is a place to drive down food, but we have to get that baseline to a good spot first before you even respond to us bringing you into a deficit. Because this is why I don't like macro calculators either, because you plug in your stats and, okay, my weight loss calories are 1,700, but you've been eating 1,400 for the past X amount of time. 1,700 would probably be like a surplus for you. So we need to change that.
It's going to be a surplus for a minute. But it's kind of odd because, right, kind of like we talked about before, if you're at 1,600 calories and you are at a suboptimal maintenance, like suboptimal hormone in maintenance, well, it's like as you eat 17, 18, 19, 2,000 calories, well, your maintenance also increases. And then your hormone environment becomes more and more optimal.
Hmm.
So, like, you're in a surplus. It's kind of interesting because you're at 1,600 calories and things are not good. You're at a surplus at 1,700, but then you're at maintenance at 1,700. Then you're at a surplus at 1,800. Then you're at maintenance at 1,800. And then at each new maintenance, that is that process of your body increasing that maintenance level inherently involves that upregulating of thyroid, better hormone conversion, higher body temperature, higher energy, so on and so forth, right? Higher energy. If you have higher energy, you have a higher energy requirement. Well, what is that technically? That's maintenance, right? What is
Yeah.
your energy requirement? And if your energy requirement goes up, i.e., your maintenance goes up, well, that's exactly what you want. That's reversing in a nutshell,
That's the
sort
whole
of. Would you
goal,
agree?
is to increase, yeah, increase the baseline.
Yeah, it's like how far can you go before it's like, okay, now you have as much energy as you can, and now you can't upregulate anymore,
Yeah,
whatever that
like
is.
you're gonna have a cap, and that's gonna be different for everyone.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and the difference in how you feel, because I went through this a few times this year, right? And like not eating very much food and just like struggling through whatever. Like you don't have good energy. Like you don't. We kind of talked about this the other day on office hours with Daniela. Like I'm starting to use creativity. I really liked that
I think
using
that's a great. kind of pinpoint of like how you're doing overall.
Which is crazy to think about. I can't remember exactly how it was said or what the correlation was,
Uh-huh.
but I do remember this might have been last year sometime. I can't remember. Justin Mahaley had said that T3 is a marker of creativity.
Mm.
I'm not sure if creativity was the word, but the correlation was basically I can tell you how creative you are or innovative you are. It might have been one of those two things by looking at your thyroid. It's like, well, to me, here's that correlation is you have low energy and you're fighting for each hour of the day. You're like, you literally fight for your life through every task you have to do throughout the day. No chance are you thinking about, okay, I'm going to get these 3 things done. This is how
Right.
I'm going to do it. This is a
It's
better way to
it's
do it.
literally the bare minimum. What can you
It's
get away with and just get through the day?
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'm going to get this done as quickly as I can because I don't want to do this. Then I'm going to scroll for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to do whatever I can to get through the next task. And then you get it done as quickly as possible. You kind of half ass it. And then you're like, I'm going to scroll again for 20 minutes. That's terrible. But that's like where most people are. However, if you feel that switch and you're like, okay, I have great energy, I always can tell when I'm in good metabolic health because now I'm thinking in content ideas. I'm like, that would be cool content. This would be cool. I would like to talk about this. I would like to teach
I guess
about
that's
this.
why we're back on the podcast too, huh?
Yeah, we must be in good metabolic health now. But that really is. I'm like, if I go on walks, because I go for a 10-minute walk after every single one of my meals. And if I'm walking around thinking of ideas like, oh, that would be cool, or reflecting on something that we talk about with Lindsay, things like that, you're like, oh, what's the correlation with this? What's the correlation with that? Could you do this? Could we try this? Oh, that seems cool. That's a creative mindset, right? That only happens if I'm in good metabolic health.
Yeah.
And I know exactly the days that it's like that versus the days that it's not.
When have you
It's
noticed
amazing.
that it's not like that?
When you're just not, if sleep is bad, if your sleep schedule's off, because there's been several times this year where it's like common, right? The weekend, travel, whatever it is, I'll go to bed at like midnight. I mean, after Wyatt's competition, we were up till
Yeah, I know that was late.
we were up late, right?
Yeah.
And then Sunday, you're like, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to go to bed at 8 if I went to bed at 3 a.m. the night before.
Right.
So maybe I'll go to bed at midnight. And then on Monday, I'm going to try to go to bed at
Just trying
9.
to slowly work it back.
Yeah, trying to slow. And in that process, no, I'm not in good energy. I'm just getting through the day. And then by the time Wednesday rolls around, you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit better. And if you can just keep that up through the weekend, then usually in the next week, I'm on it. I'm on it. Like ideas, I'm like, I've got 5 things to do today. I'm going to get through 3 before noon. The next 2, I'm like, cool, we're hanging out. Mac, what's up? You know, like, do you want to do a podcast later this week?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But if you operate like most Americans, right, where you like wake up at 6 a.m. during the week and then you stay up till 1
And
a.m.
then
on
the
the
weekend looks
weekend.
completely different.
Yeah, you're quite literally internally sort of fighting for your life till Wednesday. And then Thursday you feel a little bit better. Friday you feel a little bit better. It's like a
And then it
combination
restarts
of,
again.
yeah, you're like euphoric. One, you're euphoric about the weekend, but 2, you have energy. So now you have this energy to be euphoric about the weekend where then you're up till 1 a.m. and it restarts. I don't know. That's like one of the easiest, most impactful differences I see. But then it's food. I mean, there's always a period of time because I had to eat lower food there for a minute. Or if something happens and you got to skip a couple meals, whatever. Food absolutely has that difference. And I feel like crap because my maintenance is like 3,500 calories or something, which is a good bit of food. But if I go a couple days at like 26, 27, those couple days where I have to ease back in to 3,500, I don't feel good. Like my gut gets blown out, right? I start holding water. I can see it. I don't feel good. I'm like, oh. But in my mind, where I was kind of mentioning before, I know that like this is like my mini reverse dieting process if it ever happens. I know that, okay, just force it for a couple days and then I feel better. And then usually by the 3rd day, I'll have 3,500 calories, 2,700 calories. I'm like full every meal. I don't have great energy. 3,500 calories. I get done. I'm like, man, I find I nailed my meals today. That was sick. Now I kind of want to snack before bed.
So you find that you're not hungry at 27.
Yeah. I'm not hungry. Don't have good energy. 3,500. I'm like, it takes a little bit of struggle to force that extra food for a couple days. But once I stick to the meal times, stick to the sleep and wake times, Usually by the end of the day, on like the first or second day of eating that full amount of food, my maintenance, I go to bed, I'm full, but in my mind, I'm like, ooh, I could have an apple, I could have a kiwi, I could have some honey right
Hmm.
now, I could totally eat more. And it happens to be the day that I've eaten more than the
Right.
previous days, just like a mini reverse. Like, and then
So
go a couple days of that, I'm like, great energy.
when you do slip back to like 26, 2,700, do you ease back into the 35 or do you just go right away? Because it's not like, I'm assuming for you it's like a couple days, maybe a week or two of like that low food intake, not like years, months.
Yeah, it depends on how busy I am. It depends on how good I can dial into sleep and circadian rhythm and meal times.
Mm,
If it's a little bit erratic, I'm probably going to ease into it. Like I'll do 150 grams of rice with meals.
hmm.
I'll probably do 100 to 120 on those days. But if
Got it.
everything's like locked in and I'm like sleep and wake time's perfect, I can eat. I think the most important thing that I can do is eat my first meal as early as possible, like 8 a.m. so that I can have my second at like 11:30, my third at
Meal
2:33.
timing matters so much. When you get behind, it's
Yep.
just
It drags you down.
not fun.
Yeah. But if you can stick with that, it's like, okay, I can force it for a day
Hmm.
and then you're back on it. But you got to know, like, I know that correlation, right? I know that, okay, today's going to suck if I force it, but then the rest of the week, I'm going to have better energy. I'll be back to like a higher quote unquote maintenance. Like I'm mini reverse myself. But if you're doing that long term and you're like really taking a couple weeks to struggle through that, it's like, once you do it once, then you know for the rest of your life that, okay, this is the process of getting my food back up. It's going to suck for a minute. Don't look at the scale. Don't
Yeah.
look at my body. Give it a couple weeks. Then I'll be back at it. But before that, then it's tough.
So many people are just disconnected to how they feel in their diet.
Yeah.
Like that's not something they think about. Their meal timing. I mean, maybe they do think about meal quality, but in the sense of, am I losing weight or am I not?
Yeah. Did this meal make me fatter or did it not?
Exactly. I feel like that's really what people think about when they think about meal and food quality. Maybe calories, but not the nourishment or what it's doing for your.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what? Hypothyroidism. I mean, one of the most common problems with that is like if it's like an early stage hypothyroidism, like you're just like early stage thyroid downregulation, like most of the time it's a B vitamin deficiency.
Mhm.
It's a B vitamin deficiency, and then like iron, iodine, selenium, zinc, things like that are probably low too.
Easy fix.
Easy fix. Easy
What I
fix.
typically see with that, so subclinical hypothyroidism,
Yeah, yeah,
normal TSH, normal T3, or sorry, normal TSH, normal T4, low T3, which a lot of times you're not even really going to know if you're only testing TSH and T4.
yeah. You're gonna say,
So
well, I feel like crap.
until it develops into full-fledged hypothyroidism where your TSH is creeping up, you could go years without knowing,
Yeah, yeah.
which
Because
is also
again,
why you
like,
should look at your body temps too.
yeah, symptoms follow tissue level hypothyroidism. That is T3 directly. Body temps. Body temps. Now, caveat. We'll put some like little secret caveats in here. Body temps. If you are sick or inflamed, your body temps are going to be a little bit higher. Where you are in your cycle is going to change your body temps a little bit. Some people, especially if you're like a really active ADHD type, can have optimal T3 at a tad lower body temp.
I've seen that.
That happens. But generally speaking,
I
high,
don't
let's
know
like,
the correlation for that, but I
I
have
don't
seen
either. Yeah, I don't either.
no
I
idea.
just know that I've seen lab work, perfect lab work at a tad lower body temp, but it's still higher than they were before. Like, so if
Mm,
you had someone that had like their lower might have been lower, and that's a good question. That's something that I probably pay attention to. But they, like in this particular case, I can think of one where the low body temp for them was 95. And then high 96 for them was perfect. Like when I say perfect thyroid panel, I mean dead on.
mm,
But some people, it's like low for them is high 95s, low 96.
right.
And then high for them is high 97, 98, like we say. But it's all relative. Like what is your relative body temp to yourself?
Right. Your starting point of doing them, how you feel during them. Are we seeing them rise, and what's the correlation with how you're feeling with that rise?
Yep. What's the correlation of how you're feeling? Energetic, creative, happy. Like usually with me, it's like I use like frequency and energy of client feedback and messages. It's like if they're like, "Can we try this? Can we try this? How about this? How about this?" You're like, they're thinking ahead. Like they've got energy,
Hmm.
as opposed to like the sluggish. I don't know. Didn't eat my meals. You know what I mean? Like that's reflective too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that is funny to think about.
Yeah, you just feel so much more creative. You just want to tackle shit. You just want to do shit. You want to take on shit. You want to do as many tasks you can in a day. Like that's what good thyroid feels like. But it takes food. It takes food to get there. Food is how you get there. Food and circadian rhythm
Stress management too.
and stress management. I have more conversations in hypothyroid cases about drawing boundaries around yourself. Like when I'm on a client, I just got done on a client onboarding. The last question was, cool. All right, before we get off, what are some boundaries that you know you need to draw for yourself? What are they?
I love that question.
And they immediately were like, this is a boundary I need to draw. Like, make this your boundary. Like, make it a thing.
Well, I love that they thought of it because I feel like a lot of people would be like, well, I don't know.
It's like, where does that come from? Now you're like in the behavioral psychology side of coaching. It's like, well, if they say, well, I don't know, is it because you're scared of letting someone down? Are you scared of letting a lot of people down by saying
Hmm.
maybe they did think of a boundary and they're like, well, I don't want to draw that boundary because I'm going to let people down.
Hmm.
But people
Or not
generally,
wanting to acknowledge that they need to set that boundary.
yeah, not yeah, yeah, like feeling that respect for yourself, sort of that you're like, I respect myself enough to draw this boundary to say I will do this and I'm not willing to do that.
Exactly.
And people will respect that of you.
Hmm.
And it's not that they don't disrespect you otherwise. Like if you're very people pleasing, say you're a really good employee and you're just like, hey, can I help with this? Can I help with that? You know, sometimes if you got a good boss or something like that, they might say, how are you doing with this? Like your quality of work is going down. Usually people are worried about themselves and their boundaries and their, you know, that they're not really like, look, what can, you know, can you take this on? Are you okay? They're more just like, yeah, you can take it on. Okay, cool. They got it. It's off my plate. Cool, cool, cool. Let's go.
Hmm.
But if you draw a boundary for yourself, very rarely will someone not respect that. Very rarely will people say like, well, why do you want to not do that so that you can have more time with for your family and your kids? Like what kind of person would argue that, right? Now if you're lazy and you're just like I don't want to do
That's
that,
one
you
thing.
know, like
That's one thing.
but most of these people that we're dealing with are like high performers that are in this position because they are such high performers, they are so stressed, they are such people pleasers. That just like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Just go draw a couple boundaries here and there. Be like, what is the most impactful thing I could do? Well, the most impactful thing that I could do is set up my schedule in a way that I can at least go to bed and wake up at the same time at similar times of the day.
Yeah. And
Whatever
that'll
that
go so
means.
far,
One of the
so far.
biggest movers. One of the biggest movers. Stress, cortisol, thyroid. You know, I've got someone who their blood glucose is really high, but their insulin's fine. They're not necessarily insulin resistant. They're just really stressed all the time. Well, that's cool. That's a good thing because that's an easy fix, right? Draw boundaries, be okay and be comfortable with drawing those boundaries. Let the world adjust because you're going to say, look, I can. And what's the return on investment to doing something like that too? Because if you draw boundaries and you draw those boundaries and you set it up in a way where you're like, I'm doing this so that I can have better health, I can have more energy, I can be
And
more
then thereby
creative,
perform.
and then they perform better, and then they have better time efficiency. Maybe now hopefully they have better time management. That would probably be the most important thing. But now you're better time, you're more productive, you're a better person. You show up to what meetings you do go to in higher spirits. People want to be around you. People want to promote you because they like your energy. Like that's the return you're getting, right? Two sides of the coin. Are you scared to let people down because you're not able to keep up with the amount of work that you can do at whatever level of productivity or whatever level however well you're performing those tasks and delivering whatever deliverables you have, you know, on one side of the coin, not being able to keep up with that and getting in degrading in performance versus getting through that hump and then saying, I can now be proud of every single thing that I do in a day. I am proud of what I just did in the 2 hours that I did that. I set it
Pulling
down. I
back.
said, I'm going to do this in 3 hours. By the end of the 3 hours, you got it done. You look back and you're like, I'm proud of what I just did.
Yeah. Pulling back is probably going to think of it like a slingshot.
Yeah,
Pulling back a little bit will let you shuttle forward more.
100%. And that pulling back, it's not comfortable, right?
Right. You
Yeah.
really have to force it.
Yeah, you got to force it. But the return that you get on that is insane.
Hmm.
To be able to be energetic, be able to eat food, to be able to not have to look at people that you see online like Mackenzie, who's like, man, she's prepping, she's coaching, she's making content, she's in the ECA.
Nice.
How does she do all this? It's like, she's got damn good metabolic energy. What if you felt like that? Well, that's what it
Yeah.
takes.
Right.
Yeah, that could be you. That could be you. You could do that. Draw those
Anyone
boundaries,
can.
hire Mac, reverse diet,
Yeah. Hire one of us.
get in good metabolic health, right? Get the micronutrients. Feel what it just feel. I just challenge anybody who's like, if this hits home at all, I just challenge you to feel what that feels like, what we're
Hmm.
explaining. Whether you've heard,
Hmm.
most people have had that feeling before when they were young, right? I just want to
Yeah.
feel like I'm
When
young
you're
again.
10, 13.
You have like all this crazy energy, you're super creative, all that stuff. Most people know what that feels like. Like I implore you, just challenge yourself to feel what that feels like again, because I don't care what you have going on.
Good
I don't
feeling.
I don't care what your hormones are. I don't care what your blood work is. That's possible for you.
Hmm.
That's possible to do that. And
Yeah.
reverse dieting, increasing your food, increasing your metabolic rate is exactly how you do that. So
Agree.
sick.
Anything else you want to add on?
No, I think that
I
killed
think
it.
that was killer.
Let's go.
Well, we will be back. Season 2 starts now.
Season 2 starts now. Hopefully this was helpful. If you like this, share this with someone. Share this with someone who needs to reverse diet. And yeah, thank you all for listening. We will see you next time.